There were no cartridge cases that were found on the ground in the crime scene, at the crime scene. Is it correct?
That's correct, my lord. There were no cartridge cases found on the scene, but it does not mean that if you use a pistol, also there will be cartridge cases. It depends on your crime scene. It depends on the situation, on how it happened. As I said, in the case of a contact shot where
angithi shilo ukuthi-ke noma siyazi ukuthi lana-ke akunamafomelonde asala yebo kuyiqiniso kodwa lokho-ke akusho ukuthi noma usebenzisa-ke i-pistol ngoba-ke kuya ngokuthi-ke isini yakho noma-ke indawo yesigameko ikanjani.
In a case of a piston, where are you referring to a piston in a situation where it does not eject the cartridge case, or are you talking about the missing cartridge case after it has been ejected?
it can be that the cartridge case could be missing after it has been ejected. It can be that when the shot was fired, there was a disturbance of the slide where the slide couldn't move backward. It could not eject the fired cartridge case. The cartridge case will remain inside the firearm, where we normally call it a stoppage.
Kungenzeka-ke ukuthi emuva kokuthi-ke isibhamu siphumile igobholondololo-ke lingabonakali-ke ukuthi noma lingatholakali noma-ke kube khona-ke ukuphazamiseka okwenzekayo-ke ngaphakathi ukuthi-ke lingaphumi kodwa lisale ngasemuva.
On the latter explanation, if a cartridge case is stuck inside what you call it stoppage, will it be able to fire the next shot after it has blocked inside the cartridge is blocked inside is it a caliber or what? Wait.
Inside the chamber.
Inside the chamber, sorry.
My lord, if there's a stoppage and the fired cartridge that's stuck inside the cartridge, inside the chamber, the firearm will not fire. You have to cork it so that it can eject and then it can load another one.
Uma kuwukuthi-ke lisele ngasemuva-ke igobholondololo isibhamu ngeke sidubule futhi kuzofanele-ke usikhokhe-ke bese liyaphuma ukuze uphinde udubule futhi.
When you cock a firearm, that's when you're using both hands.
That's correct, my lord. That's when you pull the slide backward and then you release it to move forward.
Ila-ke islide-ke usiletha ngasemuva bese-ke liyaphuma-ke bese futhi-ke usangaphambili lokho kubizwa ngokuthi slide.
So now let's look at the evidence, because we're talking about possibilities. Let's look at the real evidence as to what actually happened. I understand the nature of your evidence in terms of reconstructing the crime scene. But now let's look at what, when I look at my records, I saw where Musia gave a description of a 38 revolver because there were no cartridges that were found on the floor. We can't rule the possibility that it was a 38 special that was used. We can't vehemently overrule that fact that a 38 special might be used.
My lord, I will overrule that as the only evidence that was recovered at the crime scene is the bullet of 9mm, not of 38 special.
Mina-ke ngizokuhlangana kokuthi-ke angeke siphikiseke ukuthi kungenzeka-ke ukuthi i-38 yasetshenziswa laphayana. Mina ngizothi-ke ukuphela kobufakazi obatholakala laphayana kwakubufakazi-ke obukhomba noma ukuthi-ke kwasetshenziswa i-9mm.
All right. I'll get back to the statements of those people that said a 38 special was used. I'm concerned about one thing here. The incident occurred on the 10th of October, 2014. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The 26th of October, 2014. Then a firearm was brought to you on the 3rd of November, 2014. And that firearm belonged to Chico. It was 7 days or 8 days after the incident happened. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree with that.
Isigameko lesi senzeka nge-26 ku-October 2014, isibhamu salethwa kuwena nge-3 November 2014. Isibhamu leso-ke kwakuyesikaChico, amalanga-ke awu-7 noma awu-8 emuva kokuthi isigameko senzeka. Yebo, ngiyavuma.
And as it has been put on record that Longwe was, being the son of Chico Twala, was also present, was also in the place where the incident took place on the night Senzo was killed. I'm just putting to you that Longwe, it is on record before this honorable court that Longwe was at the crime scene when Senzo was shot. I mean, according to the evidence of the witnesses, Longwe was the first person to leave the house before any shooting took place, according to the state witnesses.
Sorry, Mr.
Do you
Mngomezulu.
understand?
I want
Yes.
to be fair to your client and yourself. You've put two propositions now.
May I
The
just
first one is that Longwe shot.
Yes.
Now, the second one, you're saying Longwe exited the house before there was shooting.
Yes.
Two mutually destructive.
May I start
measures.
with the first one, my lord?
No, you
I
got to decide.
understand.
I'm just saying, I want to be fair. Don't want to
Yes.
say you contradicted yourself or you contradicted your client.
Yes. Longwe, according to the evidence of the defense, is the one who shot Senzo Meiwa with a 38 special revolver. You won't dispute that.
My lord, if they say Longo is the one who shot with a 38 special revolver, why do they bring the father's firearm to the lab to be tested? If it's not a 38 special, it's a pistol.
Uma uthi-ke nithi-ke nina-ke ngabameli uLongwe owadubula-ke uSenzo emdubula ngayo i-38 special, kungani-ke kwalethwa isibhamu sikababa wakhe ekungasiyona-ke i-38 kodwa-ke ekuyisibhamu esiyi-pistol?
The state witnesses said Longwe was the one who exited the house, which they rebutted the evidence of the witness that I'll call for accused number one, for accused number one's defense, who says Longwe is the one who shot the fire at Senzo.
My lord, if I have to explain some of the things, I was not surprised if they brought Chico's firearm to be tested, because there were allegations that Longo is the one who shot with his father's. There were those allegations. So they brought the allegations so that to clear the allegations that whether it's that firearm that was used or not. It happens a lot where in different instances, like in instances where police officers are involved in the shooting.
Lana
If
ke
it's-
angichaze lokho okulandelayo. Angizange kungimangazeke mina ukuthi kwalethwa isibhamu sikababa wakhe noma ke isibhamu sikaChico ngoba kwakunalezi insolo ezazithi uLongo uyena owadubula. Manje ke ukususa-ke lezo nsolo lezo kwalethwa-ke leso sibhamu leso sikababa wakhe.
We had incidents where we found that 2 or 3 police officers were involved in the shooting, but in a group of about 10 police, then they will take all the firearms, send them to the lab to be tested. We had such incidents. Even if they bring this one, I was not surprised because I know what was happening with the investigations.
Kuyenzeka-ke kwisigameko la khona-ke sithi amaphoyisa amaningi-ke amabili amathathu ayishumi adubula ukuthi kuzothathwa zonke lezo y'bhamu lezo zalo maphoyisa zilethwe elab. Nalana-ke akuzange kungimangazeke ukuthi kwalethwa lesi sibhamu.
Okay. So according to, are you done, sir?
I'm done. Sir.
Okay, thanks, Colonel. Colonel, are you telling this court that these allegations are not new before? They are not new as they are put today in this court? These allegations were allegations that were made because it was 8 days in between. That means these allegations started just after the incident happened, prior to the examination of Chico's firearm.
I don't know when did they start, but I know that there were allegations that Longo could be the one who fired with his father's firearm. And the firearm was brought to us to examine so that we can eliminate it. If it's not the correct firearm, we eliminate it, say no, it's not the correct firearm. Then the IO must continue to look for the correct firearm.
Ukuthi zaqala ninikele insolo lezi ukuthi ke kwakulongwe owadubula angazi kodwa ngisho ukuthi isibhamu leso sikababa wakhe salethwa ke ukuthi uma kuwukuthi akusona ke sikhishwe leso sibhamu ukuze ke ophenye icala ke aqhubeke nokuphenya athole ke isibhamu ekuyisona esadubula.
Yeah, but you're the one who talked about these allegations which led to Chico's Toller's firearm being examined. When did you hear these allegations? When?
I can't say when did I hear, but I
Was
know
it in
that there was-
2014?
It was in 2014, yes.
Thank you.
Angeke ngisho ukuthi ninike kodwa kwakungo-2014 uma ke ngizwa ngazo le insolo lezi.
You'll agree with me that there's no smoke without fire.
There's no smoke without fire.
That's correct.
Which law is that?
I suppose the witness doesn't have to.
I want to,
answer it.
no, I just want to, I don't want to be rushed in terms of what I want to put. If I say there's no smoke without fire, it's a proverb or it's an idiom which I use to make up a follow up on the submissions that I'll make. If I say there's no smoke without fire, that means they can't make such allegations without the reasons.
My lord, there's
Because-
many allegations which were made on this case. A lot of allegations were made.
I'm
so I
talking
cannot say-
precisely about Longwe. I'm talking about Longwe.
Lana engimangikusho ke ukuthi uma ngithi ke angeke nje kuvele kwenzeke insolo nje ngaphandle nje kwesizathu. Umephendula ke ufakazi ukuthi ke ningi kabi insolo ezenziwa kule cala lezi.
I'm relating to the allegations that are attached to Longwe as the person who killed Senzo, whether accidentally or otherwise. But the fact of the matter is that these allegations are that Longwe is the one who shot Senzo using a 38 special. Let me move on. There's a witness who's coming to testify in respect of accused number 1, who will tell this court that there were 3 shots that were fired. You said there were 2 shots that were fired in the house. You said there are 2 shots that were fired. Are you making that conclusion on the basis of what was found as exhibits in the crime scene?
My lord, I could only account for 2 shots which were fired. The third one, I don't know of it. If there were 3 shots fired inside the house, then the bullet fired must have hit somewhere in the house, and there was no other bullet damage that was found in the house.
Mina ke ngiphendula noma ngikhuluma ke ukuqhuma kwesibhamu amahlandla amabili ngoba ke uma kuwukuthi ke saqhuma ke isibhamu kathathu ukusho ukuthi leyo nhlamvu khona nje la yashaya khona ke kodwa ke akukho kunye ukulimala kwabonakala ke endlini.
Yes, that's why I'm saying, based on your conclusion, it relies on what you have found as exhibits, not on the general observation or on your independent opinion as to how many shots were fired. You relied on what you were given as exhibits that were found in the crime scene. Correct?
My lord, not on what I was given or not what was said to me, but based on the physical evidence that was there on the crime scene. It's only 2 shots fired, not 3 shots.
Mina ke hayi ngento engayitshela noma into ke eyalethwa kumina kodwa ke ngobufakazi obabukhona ke obabulaphayana endlini ukuthi isibhamu sakhuma amahlandla amabili aya amathathu.
Let me tell you another exhibit that was not found in the crime scene. That exhibit was with Longwe until it was taken out of his foot on his ankle. let me put it this way. There were 3 shots that were fired. I'll call that witness who will come in. Give evidence.
What's his name, if the court may know?
I may not divulge the...
Why not?
My Lord,
That's the defense. Okay, but just listen to me.
yes.
You are obligated. There's no proof or onus on you to prove anything.
Yes.
But you are obligated in terms of the case of State versus Crossley, it was done by my brother Maluleke, that you must put your version. Okay,
Yes, I
you're not
understand.
forced, but if you don't,
May I just address the court in
Yeah,
relation to the safety of those witnesses, my Lord? Their identity cannot be said openly in court because they still have to apply for the protection of such witnesses.
no, that's your own business to take care of it. I'm just telling you what the law says.
Yeah, but my Lord, I may not be compelled to
No,
disclose
you are
the
not being
identity.
compelled.
Yes.
I'm not, I can't
Even the
compel
state at some stage did not want to disclose some.
Who? This witness?
No, the state. Let me retract it. Let me just put it this way. My Lord, these witnesses' identity, they asked that they should not be disclosed at this stage.
Yeah, fine,
Yes.
fine.
This witness will tell the court that there were 3 shots that were fired in the house. The one is the one that caused an injury. Sorry? May I approach number 1?
Yes. 3 shots.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay.
All right, firstly, let's clarify this aspect of the shots that were fired. The state witnesses said there were 3. I'll be precise by saying Mthokozisi Twala. He stated that there were 3 shots that were fired. Zandi Kumalo stated that there were 3 shots that were fired. And I believe, who's the guy from Devon? Was from Devon. Tumelo Madlala. They all concluded that they gave evidence that 3 shots were fired. I'm talking about the state witnesses before I get into my witnesses. They said 3 shots were fired. You can't dispute them.
My Lord, inside the house, it's only 2 shots fired. Maybe the 3rd one was fired outside the house, where you couldn't see any bullet damage or any. But inside the house, it's only 2 shots fired.
Ofakazi-ke uyababiza-ke uMr Mngomezulu, uTumelo, Mngomezulu, kanye naye uZandile bathi-ke isibhamu sakho makathathe. Mhlambe-ke esesithathu-ke uma uqhuma-ke ihlandla lesithathu kwenzeka ngaphandle-ke, kodwa phakathi endlini isibhamu sakho makabili.
All right. Let me put this version to you, according to those witnesses that I don't want to disclose at this stage. 3 shots were fired. 1 shot is the one that caused injury to Zandi on her leg. The other shot is the one that Longwe Twala shot himself on the leg while they were struggling for the gun. The 3rd one is the one that shot Senzo Meyo. But I'm not mentioning them according to the sequence of how they happened. I mean, all these 3 shots, they caused injury to Zandi. The one was stuck in the ankle of Longwe Twala, and the other one is the one who shot Senzo dead. Do you
My lord,
have
I
any-
don't know of any injuries that Longwe sustained. If he sustained any gunshot on the leg, was there an entrance and an exit of that bullet, or what happened to the bullet?
Ngokusho-ke kwalabo fakazi-ke engeke basho-ke ngenxa-ke yezizathu zokuvikeleka kwabo. Isibhamu-ke ibhamu thathu makathathu kwashayeka uZandi. ULongwe-ke wabese naye-ke eseyayidubula-ke ngalesikhathi-ke belwa ngaso-ke isibhamu. Elesithathu-ke ihlanda ila shaya khona-ke umufi uSenzo Meyiwa. Uthi mephendula-ke anginalo-ke ulwazi lokuthi-ke uLongwe-ke wadubuleka naye-ke uma kukuthi wadubuleka-ke khona la inhlamvu yangena khona yabe isiyophuma futhi.
Longwe, after that incident, that wound became septic, and he went to a doctor, the late Dr. Mbatsane, who referred Longwe Twala to Dr. Modise in Rand Hospital, where a bullet was taken from Longwe's foot.
Sorry, you say Dr. Mbatsana,
Dr. Mbatsane was the first doctor,
right? And then Mbatsana refers the
the
patient,
patient
to Dr.
to Dr. Modise
Modise.
at Rand Hospital.
Rend.
Rand Hospital.
Okay, fine.
Do you have any comment on it?
My lord, I cannot comment on that because I don't know anything of the injuries that Longwe sustained at the scene.
Akukho-ke engakusho mayelana nalokho ukuthi-ke uLongwe-ke wabe esebona-ke udokotela uMbantsane, yena-ke owamdlulisela kudokotela uModise eRand. Uthi-ke akukho engakusho ngalokho-ke ngoba-ke akukho engikwaziyo ngokulimala kukaLongwe kwindawo yesigameko.
I just wanted to demonstrate that there were 3 shots that were fired. And the last shot, and the other shot is the one that shot Senzo, and eventually he lost his life. There were 3 shots, not 2 shots.
My lord, I'm still repeating what I said. I can only account for 2 shots that I found at the scene. The third one, I don't know.
Ngisamile-ke kuloko bengikade ngikusho ukuthi mina-ke isibhamu saqhuma kabili-ke kwesithathu angikwazi.
Colonel, there's one thing that also needs to be visited in terms of the scene being contaminated. I was informed, or there's evidence before this court, that if not mistaken, Kelly Kumalo called Chico Twala after the incident. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware, my lord.
Anginalo ulwazi lokuthi-ke emuva kwesigameko uKelly Khumalo waseshayela ucingo uChico Twala.
All right. Now, as I've put it to you yesterday, before I conclude my cross-examination, I said there were senior officers that were at the crime scene after Senzo was shot. Are you aware of the MEC of Health that was at the crime scene?
MEC of Health?
Yes, in
No, my lord,
Gauteng.
I'm not aware of it.
Bengishilo-ke kwena-ke ukuthi-ke kwakunamaphoyisa-ke ey'khundla ey'phezulu afika-ke kwindawo yesigameko. Ungabe uyazi yini-ke ngongqongqoshe-ke wezempilo noma MEC of Health owayekhona-ke naye laphaya? Cha, angikwazi lokho.
The scene was also attended by the late Brigadier Ndlovu. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Brigadier Ndlovu, I'm aware of that.
NoBrigadier Ndlovu naye-ke waya-ke yebo Brigadier Ndlovu ngiyazi.
Are you aware of the presence of General Shedrack Spear on the day of the...
My lord, I'm aware of General Sevilla was at the scene also. Attended the scene.
Ngiyazi nokuthi uGeneral Sibiya naye-ke wayekhona kwindawo yesigameko.
General Spear at that time, was he the senior? I'm just asking. If you don't know, you don't know. Was he a senior to Brigadier Ndlovu?
My lord, during the incident, General Sivia was at the Hawks, DPCI, and General Ndlovu was at the detective provincial office.
Ngaleso sikhathi leso ke kwenzeka isigameko uGeneral Sibiya yena ke wayekuma Hawks bese kuthi ke uGeneral Ndlovu ke yena ke ekuma detectives.
Who else can you think, or who else do you know was present, who was in a senior position, other than Shadrach Spear and Brigadier Ndlovu, and the MEC for him? Do you know?
I only know of, I heard that General Musigili was also on the scene. Musigili.
Musikili. Ngiyazi futhi noma ngezwazi futhi nokuthi no General Musikili naye wayekhona ke lapho.
So you would agree with me that these senior officials were at the crime scene, I would say, around 12 at night.
My lord, I don't know the time that they were at the scene, but what I know is General Sivia came to the scene as head of DPCI on the province,
Yes.
and General Ndlovu came to the scene as provincial head of detective on the scene.
Angazi isikhathi abafika ngaso engikwaziyo ukuthi ke uGeneral Sibiya waye lapha yana ke nanjengophethe ke noma ongameleke iDPCI noma lokubizwa ukuthi ama-Hawks kusifunda bese kuthi uGeneral Ndlovu wayake ngoba ukuthi uyena ke ohola abaseshi noma ke ama-detectives kusifunda.
And General Musigili was also from the province.
Naye ke uGeneral Musigili wayebuya kusona isifunda.
Do you know if there was any communication between General Spear and Mr. Silo Chico Twala?
Any communications?
Yes.
No, my lord, I don't know them.
Uyazi yini ukuthi kwakukhona yini ukukhuluma noma ke ukuxoxa kwakukhona phakathi kwaGeneral Sibiya noChico Twala? Ngikwazi lokho.
Was Chico Twala also on the scene, if I may be clarified?
No. I've put it long time that Chico was not there. Even during the evidence of Mr. Stein, I've said it that a cell phone which was recorded in the name of Chico was not at the crime scene.
So the discussion was supposed to have taken place where?
It was a discussion, a communication between Chico Twala and General Spear. When
the scene?
General Spear was at the scene.
At the scene.
Yeah, Chico was not
Yeah,
at
you
the
can
scene.
communicate with the phone. So
Yes.
you're communicating with Chico, not on the scene.
Correct.
But Twala, Sibia at the scene.
Yes,
That's what I want to know.
that's correct.
Yes.
I just want to establish do you know whether, or did it came to your attention that General Spear also phoned Warrant Officer Makubo to attend to the crime scene?
Warrant Officer Makubu?
Yes, Mishek Makubo.
No, I
He
don't
was
know.
called after 12 midnight, towards 1 in the morning, early hours in the morning.
From which section was Warrant Officer Makubu?
He's from the DPCI, from the Hawks.
My lord, what I understood was General Sibia was from the DPCI, from the Hawks. General Ndlovu was from provincial office. No, because Senzo was the national goalkeeper of after the incident, DPCI came to the scene to attend the scene to find out what transpired. Maybe the docket will be theirs. So if General Sibia comes to the scene, he will call his team of investigating officers to come with him.
Yeah.
General Ndlovu also called his team of investigating officers to come to the scene.
Correct.
But this thing was discussed at the scene. That's where the agreement was made that the provincial office will take over the docket, and then General Sibia and his members withdrew from the scene.
Okwenzeka lana ke ngaba uyazini ke ukuthi ke uGeneral Sibiya washayela ucingo shayela yena ke uwarrant officer Makubo umishek naye osebenza kuma Hawks. Umephendula ke ufakazi uthi okwenzeka lana ukuthi ngenxa yokuthi ke usenzo ke waye nozitike noma ke ugoalkeeper we national team kwase manje kuza-ke i-DPCI ukuzolalela ukuthi kwenzakalani, naye-ke futhi i-province noma isifunda seza. Uma ngabe eza-ke uGeneral Sibiya uzoza nethimba lakhe labaphenyi, uma uNdlovu eza uzoza nethimba lakhe labaphenyi. Isinqumo sathathwa khona lapho-ke ukuthi isifunda noma i-province ezoqhubeka nophenyo, wabese uGeneral Sibiya nethimba lakhe-ke bayahoxa bona-ke.
Since then, my lord, General Sibiya was never involved in the investigations. General Ndlovu and the provincial team and head office also were involved in this, but not General Sibiya.
Ukusuka-ke ngaleso sikhathi leso-ke uGeneral Sibiya akabanga ingxenye yethimba eliphenyayo noma yophenyo-ke, kwaba-ke uGeneral Ndlovu nethimba lakhe-ke kanye-ke nesifunda-ke kanye futhi-ke nayo i-head office.
I'm talking about what happened that night. I'm not talking about general investigations. I'm saying I'll call Makubo on my defense, who will come and give evidence relating to that evidence. Makubo was called by General Sibiya that night. Upon his arrival, he called him aside to assist him to reconstruct the crime scene. And certain questions, I'll tell those questions that General Sibiya asked from Warrant Officer Makubo.
My lord, if he was called to reconstruct the crime scene, in what way will he reconstruct the scene?
Engikushoyo-ke mina-ke hayi lokho okhulumayo wena kophenyo ukuthi-ke uGeneral Sibiya waxhumana-ke naye uMakhubo. uMakhubo uma esefika lapho wambizela ecaleni-ke wamcela-ke ukuthi alekeleleke ukuthi-ke balungiseke noma benze kabusha-ke noma lokhu kubizwa ngokuthi phecelezi-ke ukureconstructor i-crime scene noma indawo yesigameko. Uthi-ke uma iphendula akwenze ngayiphi-ke indlela uma kuwukuthi wakwenza lokho.
All right. Before I get into that question that you have just posed, are you aware that Warrant Officer Makubo is investigating the docket 375 of 375 of 01/2019? Are you aware of that?
My lord, I'm aware that there was a docket open, but I don't know who was investigating that docket.
Ingabe uyazi yini ukuthi-ke uMakhubo uphenya lela dokodo eliwu-375/01/2019? Ngiyazi ukuthi yebo likhona-ke idokodo elavulwa, kodwa ngazi ukuthi ubani oliphenyayo.
Let me get back into what will be is the version of Warrant Officer Makubo. He said he was called upon his arrival. Shedrack Sibiya called him and asked him if he observed what has happened here, what could be his opinion. And Warrant Officer Makubo, after he has assessed this, the scene, he told General Sibiya there and there that there are no intruders that came here.
As a court, please, my lord, I don't know if it's proper to put hearsay evidence to this witness. If Makubo is going to testify, Warrant Officer Makubo is going to testify, he can testify about it. But to slip in hearsay evidence by General Sibiya via Makubo, we submit, my lord, that that is not permissible.
Yes, Mr. Mngomezulu.
It's not hearsay because I mentioned that I'm going to call Warrant Officer Makubo. The only thing that my colleague can fix at the moment is to prepare the calling of Captain Bentley. Who's that? Bentley? The one that who Bentley? Yes, the one who called Mangena to the scene. I think he should be concerned about that. Because I said I'm going to call I've called Warrant Officer Makubo, and I still have to call him on the so that cannot be a hearsay. This is what is going to tell the court, because I put it here on record, that Makubo will tell the court that upon his observation, after he concluded checking the scene, he told Shedrack Sibiya there and there was no hesitation. He told Makubo that, he told General Sibiya that there are no intruders.
And this is, sorry, and this is after 12 o'clock.
That is after that.
And they are alleged murder of
It happened
Senzo
at
happened at
10,
about
9.
9, 8 somewhere.
9,
Half past
yes.
8, 9.
That's
Okay,
correct.
So he comes after 3 hours.
It comes after 3
The house
hours.
is empty.
Yes,
There are no intruders, he says.
yes,
Okay,
no
fine.
intruders. Then he told General Spear that people that are in the house knows what happened.
My lord, I can't comment on that. I don't know anything about that.
Kuloko kushoyo-ke ukuthi-ke uSibiya wakhulumisana noMakhubo, wase-ke uMakhubo lapho-ke etshela uSibiya-ke ukuthi cha abekho abantu abangena lana, abantu abasendlini bayazi ukuthi kwenzekani, akukho engingakusho kuloko.
Do you know of any meeting or a second meeting that was held at Melrose Ark? At Melrose Ark.
No, my lord, I don't know of any meetings.
Akukho engikwaziyo mayelana nomhlangano owenzeka eMelrose Ark.
Thank you, sir. Before I conclude, may I just quickly check if there's something I've omitted. Oh, lastly, my lord, may I have your permission to approach accused number 1?
Yeah, fine. No problem. Do you know Melrose Arch? Is there a police station there?
I don't know, my lord.
You don't know whether there's a police station there? How do you
There's
know?
a police station, not Santen.
How do you know?
It's Santen police station.
Melrose Arch. No, I want to know.
I know it.
Yeah, how do you know it, if you do know it?
I only know it when I pass them.
Ngiyazi ngokudlula khona-ke eMelrose Ark.
Okay.
Thank you, my lord. I have no further questions.
Thanks. Yes, Mr. Mngomezulu.
Thank you, my lord. I'm indebted. Morning, Colonel.
Good morning, Advocate.
At the beginning, let me just put it on record to say, on behalf of accused number 2, we don't know what happened at the scene, inside the kitchen, at that crime scene. So I'm not going to proffer any theory of explanation about what happened there, because my instructions are that accused number 2 says he was not at that scene. He's not part of the people that committed this offense, and he doesn't know anything about that offense.
Angikusho-ke ngisaqala-ke ukuthi-ke akukho engizokusho kuwena-ke ngithi yilokho okwenzeka laphayana kwenzeka lokhu, cha akuzange kwenzeke lokhu, ngoba-ke uyasho-ke ummangalelwa wesibili ukuthi yena-ke wayengekho laphayana, wayengasona ingxenye yabantu ababekhona laphayana kuleya ndawo ngaleliya langa. Manje-ke okwenzeka laphaya akakwazi.
Now, what I want to begin with is recapping on your training, your experience, and your background in forensic ballistics. Now, if understood, your evidence last year was that at the time you were 29 years in the police and 28 years in the ballistic section of the forensic science laboratory, correct?
That is correct.
Uma ufakaza noma uthula ubufakazi bakho-ke kunyaka ondlule ushilo-ke ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi leso uneminyaka ewu-29 usemaphoyiseni, futhi-ke uneminyaka ewu-28 usebenza-ke ngama-ballistics noma-ke ibhamu ney'nhlamvu.
And you are a forensic crime scene analyst and a forensic firearms and firearms components tools examiner, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Nokuthi-ke ngisebenza-ke kwiy'ndawo zey'gameko, ngisebenza futhi ngokuphathelene nazo ibhamu.
And amongst others in your training, you have received training with regard to what is termed a comparison microscope, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Ngikhulumile-ke nange-microscope eyokuqhathanisa noma lokhu kubiza-ke ngokuthi-ke i-comparison microscope esetshenziswa-ke ukuqhathanisa.
In brief, for those of us who are not ballistically learned, What is a comparison microscope?
Malot, the comparison microscope is the instrument that we use to compare. It's either your bullets or your cartridge cases, if have the similar markings on them, which were transferred by a firearm during the firing process.
Lana ke leyo microscope engikhuluma ngayo ke isetshenziselwa ke ukubheka ke ukuthi khona yini ke uma usebenzisa inhlamvu kanye futhi nalo ke igobolondo ukubheka ukuthi akhona yini ama mark afanayo ke adluliswe yisibhamu ngenkathi ke sisetshenziswa isibhamu leso ukuthi sidubule.
Yes, but I want to give everybody a picture of what that comparison microscope is, because I'm used to this lab comparison microscope that we used to use at school, the single one that you look here. Yours, how does it look, and how do you test an exhibit bullet together with a test bullet on that microscope?
My lord, using a comparison microscope, what we normally do is, if you have two specimens, let's say two bullets,
Yes.
let's say picked up from the crime scene or collected from the crime scene, we come with them and then we mark them, and after marking them, you put them on your microscope to compare the.
Esokwenzekayo asithi uneyinhlamvu ezimbili. Enye uzithole lezo nhlamvu lezo la isigameko senze khona. Uyayithatha ke uza nazo ende ila oyimarka khona ke usuthatha khona ke yona ke lelo tools leyo noma leyo microscope leyo ke uzoyisebenzisa ukubheka noma ukuqhathanisa.
When using the comparison microscope, what you'll do is you'll put one specimen on your left-hand side and then the other specimen on your right-hand side. When you look through the eyepiece, you can see both items at the same time.
Mase uyayithatha ke manje zombili enye uyibeka kwisandla sakho sokunxele enye uyibeka kwisandla sakho sokudla bese uyathatha ke manje lokho obheka ngakho uyayibona ke zombili ngesikhathi esisodwa.
So in essence, that comparison microscope, it's two lenses, this side and this side, connected together, and you can focus on two bullets, the one on the left, the one on the right, and you do your comparison. Is that my understanding of how that entrapment works?
That's correct, man.
Yebo kuyiqiniso ukuthi ke ama lens amabili ke owasebenzisayo ukubheka lezi inhlamvu ezimbili ke le ese left ku right.
And furthermore, regarding your training, you said you received training on the different manufacturing processes of firearms and firearm components, and you also traveled to or visited factories and manufacturers of ammunition and bullets. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Ngishilo ke ukuthi na uqeqesho lwami ke luhlangene nokwenziwa ke nendlela ezahlukeneke zokwenza kwazi ibhamu nokuya ke kuma factories la kwenziwa khona inhlamvu.
And you have visited, I'm not going to repeat them, local factories here in South Africa. You've visited is it the Norinco factory in China, or the Norinco? I don't know the difference, Norinco.
That's correct. In Norinco, we've visited a number of factories in Norinco which manufacture the Norinco type pistols.
Kuyiqiniso ngokumayelana nayo ke iNorinco saya kuma factory ke ahlukene enza ke ama pistol ayo iNorinco.
And you have also, during your evidence, when you are putting your experience, referred to several what are called noteworthy cases that you were involved in, correct?
That's correct, man.
Ushilo ke futhi nangamakhala ke ahlukene ke oso uyileke noma ke osebenze wona yebo.
There's a case that I'm going to refer you to, but I haven't printed it yet regarding your experience. Then I'll discuss it at the end of my evidence with you. So I'll move on. In your industry, that is the ballistic section, there's certain terminology that you use regularly in your work, correct? Certain terminology. I'll give you the terms and I want you to describe or explain them or what they mean, right? When we talk about an identification, what are we talking about?
When we talk about identification,
Yes.
it's when you're using your microscope, you look for identification marks, those or similar markings which are identical
Yes.
on both. It's either your test on your exhibits or both your exhibits. It depends on what you're working on.
All right.
You look for the similarities Then you can identify. Once you have your identification, any mark that you can identify, that's the mark that you're going to use to identify further exhibits that are related or maybe which were caused by the same tool or the same firearm.
Lana sikhuluma-ke ngaloko okutholayo-ke uma ubheka-ke kule thuluzi ebengikhulume ngalo ukuthi siyasebenzisa ubheka-ke ama-mark noma imark ethize oyitholayo-ke iyona-ke leyo-ke esikhuluma ngayo uma sikhuluma ngaloko-ke ummeli athi-ke i-identification.
And you speak about, when you are doing a comparison and a finding, you speak about an elimination or exclusion. What does that mean?
Right. Elimination or exclusion is where you find two specimens that you can see there's differences in them, showing that they were not made by the same tool. Then you eliminate one from, let's say you have a firearm and a bullet from a crime scene or a cartridge case from a crime scene. With a firearm, you're going to shoot the test. You compare the test that you fired with this firearm with the exhibits that you recovered from a crime scene. Then you look for the similarities. If there are no similarities, you can see more differences on those, or you can see more different class characteristics or different individual marks. Then you say that you are eliminating it. It was not fired from this specific firearm.
Lana sikhuluma ngokuthi uma usuvivinya-ke ubheka-ke usebenzisa sona-ke isibhamu ubuse uyathola-ke ukuthi cha akukho-ke lana okutholakalayo noma ukuthi-ke lokhu okutholakala lana kuyatholakala nangalana kuyafana-ke yila manje esesikhuluma khona ukuthi-ke usuyayikhipha-ke ukhiphele eceleni.
And you also talk within examination, comparison and findings about an inconclusive finding. What does inconclusive mean?
My Lord, when we refer to inconclusive findings, the inconclusive findings is where you are working on them. You can see the similarities, maybe of class characteristics and subclass characteristics, but you cannot see all the markings that you see, the individual markings that you are looking at. You can see them, but they are not sufficient enough to make it positive. Then you say that it's inconclusive. Well, by inconclusive, you meaning that it cannot exclusively say that this specific bullet or this specific cartridge case was fired in this firearm. The class characteristics may be the same, but the individual markings are not sufficient enough to make it positive.
Lana sikhuluma ngokuthi-ke uma kuwukuthi uyabheka ubuse uyathola ukuthi yebo khona ngikubonayo kodwa-ke akwanele-ke ukuthi-ke ngingafikelela kwisinqumo noma nginganquma ngithi yiloku ila esikhuluma khona-ke ngokuthi-ke lokhu engikutholile akwanele.
And furthermore, you then speak about not suitable for identification. When will that situation arise?
When we say it's not suitable for identification, we are referring to if it's a bullet, it's fired, it's damaged, in a condition that you cannot do a comparison of the individual markings to the test or your other bullets.
Lana-ke sikhuluma ngokuthi asisebenziseke inhlamvu ukuthi le nhlamvu itholakele-ke kodwa-ke isimo engasona-ke ukuthi le nhlamvu akukho ukuthi-ke ukhona ungakuthola-ke kuyona-ke noma-ke ungakwazi ukuthi ungaqhathanisa ilapho sisho-ke ukuthi ayikulungele noma-ke ayikho suitable ukuthi-ke unga-identify noma kukhona okungatholakala kuyona.
And when you have done your examination comparison, you come to a conclusion which is a match. You say that there is sufficient agreement. What is meant by sufficient agreement?
My Lord, when we say it's a sufficient, we have sufficient agreement of individual characteristics or individual marks. That's when you look at the similarities. If the similarities that you see on both items are exactly the same, you can say that this is a match.
Lana-ke uma-ke usuqhathanisa-ke usuyathola-ke ukuthi-ke lokhu okuqhathanisayo-ke lamazibitha amabili-ke kufana ncamashi yila esisho khona-ke manje sisebenzisa-ke leli gama-ke elithi-ke sufficient agreement ngoba-ke lokhu okuthola ngala uyakuthola nangala.
Now, there's an acronym AFTE, AFTE. Do you know it and do you know what it stands for?
Yes, my Lord. I attended the FT seminar in 2012 in New York, in Buffalo City. FT is a seminar, Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners.
Uma ukhuluma nge-FT ukhuluma ke ngesemina engaya kuyona ke eNew York said which year
2012.
ngo-2012
Sorry, at which institute or university?
It's an association of toolmark examiners from different countries. They normally meet every year.
lana ke sikhuluma ke ngenhlangano noma i-association ke ehlangana unyaka nonyaka futhi ke kuya kumazwe ahlukene.
And correctly so, it's an international association of members who are firearms and toolmark examiners.
That's correct, yes.
Lena ke inhlangano ke abantu ababuya ke kumazwe ahlukahlukene futhi ke abasebenza ngazo ke ibham noma ke lokho kubizwa ukuthi ama-tool marks.
And there are members to AFTI, associate members and non-members, but all of you, and when I say you, I mean firearm and toolmark examiners, you adhere to AFTI's standards, theories, and principles when you do your examination comparison of ballistic evidence, tools, and
Toolmark.
bullet components, whatever you are doing in your field.
That's correct, my lord.
Kuyiqiniswa ukuthi sonke ke kuyo nhlangano noma la sihlangana khona ke sisebenza noma senza ke izinto ngokwendlela ke elindele yayo le nhlangano.
And there's what is called AFTI's theory of identification. Do you know it?
Yes, I know the FT theory of identification.
Nayo ke i-after theory leyo ngiyayazi.
Can you, in brief, explain the general principles of that theory?
Theory of identification.
Yes.
Right. With the theory of identification, my lord, is when you look, you take you do your comparison, and in your comparison, you look at the similarities of your exhibit, maybe, or your specimen. And during the process of your comparison, in the theory, you look at the similarities. You start with your class characteristics. You go to your subclass, if there's any subclass, and then you go to your individual markings. Your comparison on those things. When you do the theory of identification, normally what we are looking at, it's a pattern match. You look at the pattern. If there's any pattern, like the shape of your firing pin, what marks do we have in the firing pin? Sometimes you find that it's not striation, it's a pattern. You compare the pattern. If one firearm has been used to do to create patterns, you will see all your patterns on all your firearms or the specimens which are fired in a specific firearm. So normally with the with the theory of identification, you do your comparison based on that. You look at the contour, you look at the depth of your markings, you look at the spacings of all your markings or between the markings on those. That's a theory that we normally use when you do your comparison.
And what does that theory, so sorry, Mr. Jonas?
I'm not going to repeat myself. Just go on. I mean, that's Greek to me. So for you to go so long and expect me to, so just go on. It's the same thing I requested yesterday. Just go on.
No, but the accused persons
No,
need
but
to
we
know.
need to be fair.
Yes.
I asked this yesterday, so
Yes.
it's repeating. So what is the result of it?
Colonel Mangena, I'm going to request you, for the purposes that the accused can also be interpreted to what is being said, break down your answers in small sections and allow Mr. Jonas to interpret. So let's start at the beginning.
I apologize for that, man.
Let's start at the beginning. Just give me the gist of the three principles on which the after theory of identification is based.
Right. With the three principles of the FT theory.
Let me be fair to you, Colonel. If you've got a literature in front of you, you can just read it verbatim as is, then you can explain it.
Right. With the theory of identification, as it pertains to the comparison of a tool mark enables the opinion of common origin to be made when the unique surface contour and of two tool marks are sufficient.
Yes, allow him to
Agreement.
interpret, please.
Uma sikhuluma ke, yeah. Uma sikhuluma nge-theory noma lokhu okuchazayo noma identification kumayelana nokuqhathanisa lokhu okubizwa ngokuthi ke ama-tool mark. Wona ke anikeza ngovo nokuchaza ke ukuthi ke la okusuka khona ke lokho kwenziwa kanye futhi ke nama-tool mark amabili ukuthi ke anele lokho kubizwa ke ngokuthi ngesivumelwano noma isivumelwano esanele sufficient agreement.
And the second principle, Colonel?
That the sufficient agreement is related to the significant duplication of random tool mark as evidenced by the correspondence of the pattern or combination of patterns on the surface contour.
Yeah, read it, all of it, the whole of the second
All right.
principle, then he'll interpret.
The significance is determined by the comparative examination of two or more set of surface contours, patterns, comparisons, and individual peaks, ridges, and furrows, especially the relative heights, depth, width, curvatures, and spatial relationships of the individual peaks, ridges, and furrows within one set of our surface contour are defined as and compared to corresponding features of the second set of the surface contour. Agreement is significant when the agreement in individual characteristics exceed the best agreement demonstrated between the tool marks are known to have been produced by the different tools and is consistent with the agreement demonstrated by tools known to have been produced by the same tool. The statement that sufficient agreement exists between two tool marks means that the agreement of individual characteristics is of a quantity and quality that the likelihood that another tool could have made marks is so remote that, or is so remote to be considered a practical impossible.
To the court, my lord, can I just ask this to be explained in layman's terms? This is correct.
Ah, but you know what? I've read about ballistics. The tools are not applicable here. Is that not so, sir? We're concerned about ballistics. A tool I know,
With a tool,
yeah, you can take an X. The
With the
contour, the
tools,
depth, the width, fine. But I
also
think this
depend-
court is concerned about the ballistics in this case.
My lord, let the expert
Yes,
testify.
yes,
He's explaining,
Yes.
because I said firearms and tool marks. And this principle, this theory of identification covers both experts who are tool mark examiners, who are firearm
But he's reading
ballistic
from there.
examiners.
You see, that's my problem.
He's reading?
You said you must read from there. You said
Yes,
so.
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm interested in the application.
yes, I'm coming to
Has
that.
he ever applied all those theories?
I'm coming to that, my
Oh,
lord.
okay,
My
fine.
lord is jumping the gun.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
in simple layman's language, my lord, is how you do comparison. You are comparing the contour, you're comparing the marks transferred to a firearm. By a firearm to your tool mark, it's either your bullet or your cartridge cases. You look at the contour, you look at the spacings of your marks, you look at the continuity of it.
Lana nje ngafishi nje ukuthi kuyo yonke lokho bekufunda la ku number 2 ukuthi ukuqhathanisa noma ukuthola ke ama marks noma yini ke kusona ke isibhamu noma okundluliselwe isona isibhamu noma kudluliselwa kwinhlamvu. Yes.
Right. When you say that there's agreement of sufficient marks, it's when all those are in line and are consistent. Where you can see the similarities, the contour is the same. The mark depth sometimes becomes exactly the same, or it all depends on your firearm. But all those marks will be exactly the same. Then where it will be impossible for two different tools to create the same marks like those ones.
Lana ke mase sikhuluma manje ngayo ke i-sufficient agreement sikhuluma ngokuthi ke onke ke lama marks noma konke lokhu okubhekayo ke uyakuthola ukuthi ke isibhamu ngaba yini ke lama characteristics noma le impawu lezi eyidluliselwe yisona isibhamu kuyona inhlamvu.
And let me just quickly read the the third leg of the theory. It says, currently the interpretation of individualization and or identification is subjective in nature, founded on scientific principles and based on the examiner's training and experience. Right?
That's correct, yes.
So practically what it says, for you as an examiner, correct me if I'm wrong, to say that there's a match or there's not a match, everything, the testing that you do is subjective. And your conclusion as well is subjective.
That's correct.
Lana ke yebo okusho ke ilokho ke ukuthi ke noma yini ke othi uma usuwenzile ke umsebenzi wakho ke oyitholayo egcineni noma ke isinqumo ofikela kusona ke egcineni ukuthi ke siyakwazi ke ukuthi ke sibhekwe naso leso sinqumo leso noma lokho okutholile.
Sorry.
That subjectivity is based on what? It must be predicated on some factors.
As I said, it's based on
Yeah.
the training and experience that you have.
That's it.
Yes.
So it's not your own subjectivity. It's based on the training which you have undergone to
And
interpret
experience.
the factors which you are saying the sufficient commonality.
That's correct, my lord.
Lokho ke kuya ngokuqeqeshwa ke ukuthi ke indlela ke owaqeqeshwa ngayo ukuthi ke umsebenzi lo uwenze.
And by the way, different trainers are trained by different people, so the training is not universal, correct?
The training is done by different,
Yes.
depends on who's training you and
Yes.
who's.
Kuya ngokuthi ke ubani ke wena ke okunikeza uqeqesho lo noma ubani okutrainayo.
Now, before we go to the mini adjournment, I just want you to touch on 3 characteristics that you normally will find with regards to firearms and bullets and projectiles and cartridge cases. They're defined for us again. Class characteristics, what are they? Say, for example, in this particular case, the CZ 9mm Luger with other Lugers, what are the class characteristics that you are looking at?
The class characteristics of those will be the caliber of the firearm.
Lana ke mase sikhuluma ngayo i-CZ i-9mm kuzoba ke iloko kubizwa ngokuthi ngama class noma ke kunozinto ezithize ama characteristics athize ayo yikona esizokubheka. Yes.
The number of grooves in the barrel of the firearm.
Ukuthi ke kunama grooves amangaki la ngaphambi kuloko kubizwa ngokuthi ke i-barrel yaso isibhamu.
The twisting of your grooves.
Ukuthi ke ama grooves lawo ke ajika noma atwista kanjani.
And then the width of your grooves.
Nokuthi ke futhi ke avuleke kangakanani.
Okay. After the mini adjournment, I'll come back to this one. With regard to grooves in the CZ, the exhibit firearm, let me call it that because since CZ Luger 9mm is alphabet soup that will twist my tongue. So let's say the exhibit bullet, firearm.
The CZ-75
The
pistol.
CZ-75 9mm parabellum. How many grooves? Do we count grooves?
It
How
has
many
6 grooves.
Okay.
6 right twisted grooves.
Okay.
Lena ke sikhuluma ngayo i-CZ 75 yona ke inama grooves awu-6 abizwa ngokuthi ke twisted.
And in other firearms, just for completeness sake, there'll be left twisting grooves as well.
We have firearms which are left twisted, but there are very few.
Okay.
Most of the firearms are right twisted.
Okay.
Sinazo ibhamu ke la ke ama grooves atwistela ke kuhlangothi la ngasekunxele kodwa ke ayikho iningi lezo ibhamu eziningi zona zitwistela ngako right.
Now let's come to a definition of the crux of why we are here, the individual characteristics. What are we looking for, or what are they?
The individual characteristics, my lord, can be the imperfections that are inside the firearm, which can create markings on your exhibits. Let's say in the process of manufacturing the firearm, they're using, I would say, blades to cut the grooves, and in the process, there's friction, there's the erosions and there's corrosion, where you find that in that process, some of the marks will be created in the barrel of the firearm or on your grooves. Those irregularities in your barrel will create markings on all your exhibits which you have fired in this firearm. The striations that you see are created by such things, which are could have been created during the manufacturing of this specific firearm. Or it will depend.
Ekwenzweni kwaso-ke isibhamu lesi kungenzeka-ke ukuthi bekunezinto-ke khona-ke noma kwi-barrel lena yaso-ke isibhamu khona-ke ukungathi-ke kundlulisele-ke asisebenziseke yona-ke inhlamvu ke ama-marks athize okuwabizile ngokwamathemu-ke ase-eyibhamu ama-striations kuya ngokuthi yindlela-ke isibhamu uma senziwe kanjani noma yini-ke ama-grooves lawo abe khona ngaphakathi noma kuyona i-barrel yesibhamu.
And lastly, on this aspect, what are subclass characteristics?
The subclass might be the ones which are created there, not like the class characteristics. We can have subclasses which are created within, I don't know how to explain, it might be an accidental created during the manufacturing, or in case like cartridge cases where you have the head stamps or the batch number. With those head stamps or batch numbers, we can have the subclass was, it will be only for that limited amount. With the cutting of the grooves, where I said it might be an accidental, you find that the tool that they're using, it creates a specific mark on it. When they change the tool, that mark's no longer there. It will be only on the specific firearms which were created with that specific tool, but not all of them.
Uma sesikhuluma ngawo-ke ama-subclass kuya ngokuthi-ke yiphi-ke ithulusi noma-ke itool esetshenzisiwe wenza-ke isibonele ngalo igobolondo noma-ke i-cartridge ukuthi-ke khona-ke laba kubiza ngokuthi-ke i-stamp noma-ke uma sekushintshwa-ke manje sekungasetshenziswa-ke leyo tool sekusetshenziswa enye itool ila usuthola khona-ke ukuthi lokhu ukutholile ngaphambili akusekho-ke manje.
And now, just before we go to a mini adjustment, when we do identification in terms of a match, do we consider all of these characteristics, or do we only consider some of them to be matching on both sides, the exhibit and the test?
When you do your comparison, my lord, your class characteristics must be there. Your individual markings are the ones that you're concentrating on. And when you're using your individual characteristics, they must be in a relative same position.
Uma usuqhathanisa-ke manje kunalokhu okubhekayo-ke lokhu akubizwa ngokuthi-ke ama-IC, individual characteristics, ukuthi-ke wona-ke kufanele ukuthi abe khona-ke lapho kufanele ubheke futhi nendawo-ke atholakala kuyona.
Thank you, my lord. It's 11:20.
Are you
Will
through
it be
with-
opportune to take this?
Are you through with your cross-examination concerning, as you said you wanted to? You can go on if you think you must finalize this aspect of your cross-examination.
No, I've covered I wanted us to cover the various classes. I'm done with them, my lord. I'm going to move on to the next aspect after the short adjournment.
Is that so?
Yes.
Just from my understanding, you talked about striations, grooves, lens, etc. Is there a firearm in the world which has, are there two firearms or more which have the similar striations or grooves inside the barrel?
Inside the barrel?
Yeah.
No, my lord.
Never, ever.
Unless if we have to check all the firearms in the world, but the ones that we have ever checked, no. You won't find the
That's what two
the same.
professors
So
are
sorry, my
saying.
lord, before the court adjourns, I just want clarification on the bench question. The court asks you, is there two or more firearms that have got the same grooves and striations?
The same striations.
Sorry?
The same striations.
and grooves. That's what the court is
Yes.
asking you.
No,
Now
but-
we must distinguish between grooves and striations. I want you to clarify that for the court.
You can find the striations inside the groove.
Yes.
Because the striations are created when they cut the grooves inside the firearm. So in the process of cutting the grooves, they are creating the striations which are being transferred to your bullets when you fire a shot.
Okay.
Lokho kubiza ngokuthi iwona-ke ama-striations, iwona-ke enzeka ngaphakathi-ke noma kubiza kuyona-ke i-groove, uma sekuthi-ke manje noma-ke asengaphumela kuyona inhlamvu.
Thank you, my lord. May you-
No, just last. But those striations and grooves are unique.
They are
They're
unique.
like a
man.
fingerprint.
The striations are unique like a fingerprint.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good luck,
madam.
Jen.
All right.